Charlie Kirk's memorial was supposed to be a moment of unity, but instead, it erupted into chaos. Word is, his widow Erika Kirk made the shocking move to bar Candace Owens from even attending. Now here's the twist. Candace, who's been the loudest voice honoring Charlie, claims she stayed away not out of disrespect, but out of fear for her life. She says powerful forces wanted her silenced, and the memorial was nothing but a setup. Was she really protecting herself, or was this a cover for something much deeper? Let's get into it. The situation surrounding Charlie Kirk's memorial has taken a shocking turn, and the drama is nothing short of explosive. Word on the street is that Erika Kirk, Charlie's widow, made the bold decision to bar Candace Owens from attending the service. And this wasn't some quiet, behind-the-scenes choice. It played out publicly, leaving many people stunned and questioning Erika's motives. Since Charlie's passing, Candace has been one of the most visible voices honoring him. She's openly mourned, spoken about his impact, and shared her grief with the world. Erika, by contrast, offered only a short statement prior to the memorial and then chose silence until the actual event. That silence fueled speculation, with some whispering that Candace seemed more invested in honoring Charlie's memory than his own wife. Instead of putting those rumors to rest, Erika's alleged decision to block Candace only ignited the fire further. Many fans are interpreting it not as a protective move for the family, but as a sign of personal jealousy. Behind the scenes, tension between Erika and Candace may have been brewing for quite some time, and this very public clash has blown everything wide open. Now, all eyes are on them, and the unfolding drama promises to get even more chaotic. Everyone expected Candace Owens to be front and center at Charlie Kirk's memorial on Sunday. Ever since his passing, she has been the loudest voice keeping his name alive, calling out everyone from the FBI to powerful billionaires she accused of plotting against Charlie, even pointing fingers at the Prime Minister of Israel. She made it clear she wasn't afraid to speak out, which is why her absence at the memorial shocked so many people. For someone who publicly declared Charlie as her best friend and consistently pushed his legacy forward, not showing up raised a lot of questions. Candace later attempted to explain her controversial decision, framing it not as an act of disrespect but as one of survival. In her telling, the choice was simple: show up and risk her life, or stay away and continue her mission from a safer distance. According to her, the same shadowy forces she had accused of orchestrating Charlie Kirk's death had now turned their attention directly toward her. She positioned herself as the next target on their list, painting the situation as one where every move she made had to be carefully calculated. To her supporters, this wasn't paranoia, it was a logical extension of the threats she had been voicing for weeks. To her critics, however, it sounded like yet another convenient excuse. Candace claimed that in the days leading up to the memorial, she had been inundated with messages, calls, and pressure to confirm her attendance. The way she described it, the insistence felt less like genuine concern and more like a trap. She suggested that people were baiting her, trying to force her into a public appearance that could be exploited for social media optics, or worse, that could leave her vulnerable to an attack. In her narrative, the danger wasn't abstract. It was immediate, personal, and carefully orchestrated by the very establishment she had been fighting against. She leaned heavily into the idea that her absence wasn't a sign of weakness but rather of wisdom. Why, she asked, would anyone who openly challenges the federal government willingly walk into what she described as a lion's den? If she was already calling out with unlimited resources and accusing the FBI of covering up one of the most high-profile killings in recent memory, then standing in a public crowd, unprotected and exposed, was out of the question. In her own words, attending the memorial would have been suicidal, not noble. And so, she doubled down, insisting that her decision was about prioritizing self-preservation over optics. Candace framed the issue as a classic dilemma of optics versus survival. To many watching, her absence from the memorial looked cold and calculating. The widow, Erika Kirk, stood on stage and delivered one of the most moving speeches of her life, surrounded by family, friends, and an audience grieving the loss of Charlie. Meanwhile, Candace stayed home, posting online about her faith, her children, and her admiration for Erika's strength. For her detractors, the optics were clear. She made it about herself once again. Yet Candace rejected that framing entirely. In her view, the very fact that people wanted her to prove her loyalty by showing up was evidence of a deeper manipulation at play. She argued that forcing her into the spotlight was never about honoring Charlie but about controlling her, exposing her, and possibly silencing her. Her explanation also leaned on the larger narrative she had been building for weeks, that she was at war with powers far bigger than herself. By skipping the memorial, She cast herself as someone refusing to walk into a setup, someone too aware of the stakes to let emotions cloud her judgment. It was, in her telling, a strategic move in an ongoing battle rather than a retreat. She pointed out that the same people criticizing her for staying away were also the ones dismissing her claims about corruption and cover-ups. In her eyes, that wasn't a coincidence. Still, the backlash was swift. For many fans, her reasoning rang hollow. They questioned whether personal safety was simply a convenient shield to avoid facing Erika, who had allegedly banned her from the memorial in the first place. Others argued that if Candace was brave enough to accuse billionaires and federal agencies of conspiring in murder, then surely she could have shown up for a grieving widow in her darkest hour. Critics framed it as hypocrisy. How could someone so outspoken suddenly fold when it came time to stand in solidarity at a memorial? Candace, however, seemed unfazed by the criticism. In her usual fashion, she doubled down and refused to budge. She insisted that her loyalty to Charlie's legacy wasn't measured by one event, no matter how symbolic. Instead, she framed her ongoing fight for truth as the real tribute to his memory. Showing up for photos, she argued, might have satisfied her critics, but it would have done nothing to expose the people she believes are responsible for his death. She also highlighted the long game. "If I get taken out," she reportedly implied, "then everything I've been working to uncover dies with me." By casting herself as a soldier in a much larger war, she suggested that her role was too important to be squandered by putting herself in unnecessary danger. To her supporters, this reinforced the idea that she was a fearless truth-teller making rational decisions under pressure. To her opponents, it looked like self-mythologizing, Candace once again inserting herself into the center of the narrative. At its core, her decision not to attend became yet another flashpoint in an already tangled web of loyalty, perception, and power struggles. Was she genuinely protecting herself from a legitimate threat? Or was she using the specter of danger to deflect from her strained relationship with Erika and the rest of Charlie's circle? The truth likely lies somewhere in the messy middle. But what's undeniable is that Candace managed to keep herself at the center of the conversation, even in her absence. In the end, her explanation left the public divided. Some saw wisdom in her caution, applauding her for refusing to walk into what she described as a staged trap. Others saw nothing but cowardice, hypocrisy, or self-interest dressed up as strategy. And perhaps that's the story of Candace in a nutshell: polarizing, unpredictable, and impossible to ignore. What should have been a simple question of showing up to honor a fallen friend has instead spiraled into yet another chapter in the ongoing saga of Candace Owens versus the world. Candace Owens doubled down on her decision not to attend the memorial, saying she had no interest in showing up to an event organized by the feds. Instead, she explained that her way of honoring Charlie was to put on her headphones, listen to Power, and go see you perform. For her, that felt like the right way to pay tribute in the moment. In another video, however, fans began to suspect that Candace was throwing a little shade at Erika Kirk. She suggested that Erika might not have been fully in charge of the memorial arrangements, hinting that donors and outside pressure could have been calling the shots. While she said she hoped Erika was in control, her comments left viewers questioning the dynamic behind the scenes. At first, Candace's fears for her safety seemed believable. After all, her close friend had just been killed, and she had stirred up tension by publicly accusing powerful groups of being involved. When she thought about it more carefully, the story didn't quite add up. The memorial itself was guaranteed to have maximum security. Not only was it being held in response to a tragedy tied to security failures, but the president and vice president were also in attendance, which meant the venue was heavily protected. The chances of something like a sniper attack happening there were slim to none. Critics argued that if the FBI really wanted to silence Candace, they wouldn't risk doing it at a high-profile event where all eyes were watching. Any harm that came to her in that setting would immediately point back to them. This leaves a lingering question. Was Candace genuinely fearful for her life, or was there something else driving her decision to stay away? Many fans believe there's more to Candace Owens' absence than the safety concerns she cited. In their view, the real story is that Erika Kirk herself banned Candace from the memorial. They suspect Erika was frustrated that Candace had turned so much of the public conversation about Charlie's death toward herself, and the last thing she wanted was for Candace to do the same thing at his memorial. When you look at the optics, the theory makes sense. Candace has been at the center of the spotlight since Charlie's passing, while Erika has remained comparatively in the background. Even Erika's elevation to CEO of Turning Point USA generated far less buzz than Candace's fiery Twitter threads about getting to the bottom of Charlie's death. But before dismissing this all as a conspiracy theory, there's another layer to consider. Candace has claimed that powerful figures threatened Turning Point USA, pressuring the organization to blacklist both her and Tucker Carlson. According to her, that's the real reason she wasn't invited to speak at the memorial. In her own words, she admitted, "You're right, you got me. I was not invited to speak alongside President Trump and J.D. Vance with Tucker Carlson at the memorial event." She went on to stress that the Arizona gathering wasn't a funeral but a memorial, and, from what she's heard, was largely overseen by the White House. In her view, the invitations and programming were being manipulated by political forces. "Trump is controlled by Zionists," she said, implying that the entire event was being used to bait her. Whether you believe her or not, her comments have only deepened speculation that her absence was about far more than personal safety. Candace Owens argued that it was only common sense she wouldn't be allowed to share the stage at Charlie Kirk's memorial while continuing to speak on the topics she's been addressing. She insisted the administration would never permit her to stand beside the invited speakers. But here's the twist: Tucker Carlson, who she claimed had also been blacklisted, not only attended the memorial but spoke at the event. That revelation left many people questioning her version of events and doubting whether Turning Point USA truly forced her out. Behind the scenes, multiple sources claimed the real reason Candace was absent had little to do with politics and more to do with personal conflict. According to these reports, Erika Kirk allegedly made it clear she didn't want Candace at the memorial, and certainly not speaking on stage. When you look at the circumstances, it's not hard to see why. Since Charlie's passing, Erika has faced a wave of criticism online. Many have accused her of not speaking publicly enough, while others went so far as to suggest she might even be compromised. Meanwhile, Candace has dominated the conversation, becoming the loudest voice tied to Charlie's death and pulling most of the attention in the process. For Erika, already under intense public scrutiny, the idea of Candace taking over the memorial may have been too much to tolerate. And from Candace's side, silence has never been her approach. From the very beginning, she's been vocal about her belief that there's more to the story than what's being told. She was among the first to jump online, hinting at conspiracies and amplifying suspicions. For her followers, this only reinforces the idea that she won't be quiet anytime soon. If anything, her absence from the memorial might push her to speak out even louder. Not long after the shooting, a private jet under the tail number NAKG departed Provo Airport, just 1 hour after the attack. 30 minutes into the flight, the plane mysteriously dropped off ADS-B tracking, which is illegal, before reappearing about an hour later heading back toward Provo. The unusual disappearance from radar immediately sparked speculation online. Why did the plane shut off its tracking? And where exactly is the shooter? Candace Owens jumped on the story almost instantly. If anybody knows anything about this, please comment below or email tips@candaceowens.com, she wrote. She made it clear she believes Charlie's death was an orchestrated hit, openly asking, "Who called the hit on Charlie? We need answers." Her posts went further, hinting at a possible cover-up at the highest levels of law enforcement. She tweeted, "The feds immediately interjected and took over the case from the local police departments. If they had wanted to catch Charlie's killer, they would have immediately publicized all pictures and videos and the internet would have solved it in minutes. The desire was never there." Even after the federal authorities announced the arrest of Tyler Robinson, Candace continued to cast doubt on the official story. She tweeted, "More people were involved and we need to know whom," suggesting Robinson did not act alone. She also pointed to Discord as a possible breeding ground for the plot, writing that many mass shootings are connected to private chats and underground networks. "We need to know who the directors of it are," she insisted. Candace then warned her followers to be very wary and suspicious of anyone telling them to stop asking questions about Charlie's assassination. Reinforcing her point, she even retweeted claiming, "I guarantee the FBI was in that Discord server," suggesting that federal agents may have had prior knowledge, or even involvement, in the plot. Candace Owens hasn't slowed down one bit. After warning her followers about a possible cover-up, she went even further, claiming that Charlie Kirk had been locked in tense battles with powerful billionaires, people he had once accepted money from, over the issues he was speaking out about. She described the pressure on him during the last 2 weeks of his life as immense, promising that the truth will be revealed, the messages will be leaked, and the movement he built will rise up. Her statements made it sound as if she actually had receipts to back up her claims. To reinforce her point, Candace retweeted a post alleging that Charlie was about to lose his last major donor because he refused to ban Tucker Carlson from events. The post accused powerful billionaires of shedding crocodile tears and called for them to be exposed for the cretins that they are. Candace echoed this sentiment, making it crystal clear that she has no plans to back down. Even after news broke that the FBI had officially launched an investigation into Tyler Robinson, Charlie's alleged killer, for possible accomplices, she only pushed harder. No amount of federal scrutiny, she insisted, was going to silence her. The FBI has publicly stated it hasn't ruled out the possibility that others may have radicalized or aided the suspect. According to Bureau sources, agents are combing through chat logs, dark web activity, and the suspect's affiliations. One official was quoted as saying, "We are focused on the radicalization element. The truth will not be hidden or buried or classified. The public will know. No stone should be left unturned. The public deserves answers on who radicalized this degenerate, and they must be held accountable." Candace, however, called BS even on that. She tweeted, "We know they are lying. If they prefer to try another BS narrative before my show, we'll be happy to shred that one, too." She then doubled down, claiming to have even more evidence ready to release. "More is going to come out, guys. The truth is inevitable. They are lying. But rest assured, these people are deranged enough to put their anger and demands in writing." Ending her statement with a reference to the Princess Bride, she told her followers, "Sorry guys, you murdered my friend. You unlocked the Inigo Montoya in me. We're not stopping until we get to the bottom of this thing." From the very beginning, Candace Owens positioned herself as one of Charlie Kirk's fiercest defenders. She repeatedly insisted that until the day he died, he was under immense pressure, intimidation, and even financial threats, all of which she vowed to expose. But while she's been loud about Charlie's legacy and the forces she claims were behind his death, many have noticed that Candace has effectively made herself the public face of his movement. And according to reports, Erika Kirk hasn't exactly been comfortable with that. What struck people as odd is that throughout her countless rants, Candace never really said anything about Erika at all. While she vowed to bring justice, to find out who ordered the hit, and to hold powerful people accountable, she didn't publicly offer condolences to Charlie's wife. In contrast, figures like Barack Obama, Joe Biden, and Kamala Harris, who had all clashed with Charlie ideologically, still shared messages of sympathy for Erika. The silence from Candace stood out even more when heartbreaking photos of Erika clutching a rosary went viral. Yet Candace never acknowledged them. For many fans, this only reinforced the belief that she was making Charlie's death about herself, which could explain why Erika might not have wanted her at the memorial. Interestingly, it seems being banned may have shifted something in Candace. Realizing there was a strong chance she could also be excluded from the funeral, she appeared to soften her tone toward Erika. After the memorial, Candace began praising her publicly, tweeting about Erika's strength and resilience. For some, it looked like Candace was scrambling to mend the fractured relationship, but for others, the sudden change in tone only highlighted the complicated tension between the two women. After the memorial, Candace Owens took a dramatic turn in her messaging. She began praising Erika Kirk in glowing terms, calling her speech one of the most consequential in American history. Candace marveled at Erika's ability to stand on stage, forgive someone who had caused so much pain, and embody what she called a stunning example of Christian faith. In Candace's words, Erika represented the very essence of the gospel, transforming grief into forgiveness. Candace even shared her own day of faith-inspired activities, attending Mass, taking her children to see the light of the world, preparing dinner at home, and then listening to Tucker Carlson recount the story of Jesus Christ. She capped it all by again lifting up Erika as a model of Christian love and resilience. For Candace, the day felt perfect, and she made sure her followers knew just how powerful she found Erika's example. But fans were quick to notice what was missing. For weeks, Candace Owens had been relentless in her pursuit of justice. She was the loudest voice in the room, demanding answers, putting billionaires on blast, and accusing the FBI of weaving yet another cover-up to shield powerful players. Her tone had been fierce, unflinching, and almost militant. Whether people agreed or not, they couldn't deny the intensity of her mission. She made it sound as though she wouldn't stop until every single person connected to Charlie Kirk's death was dragged out into the light and held accountable. Yet something shifted after the memorial. The Candace who once shouted about conspiracies, secret donors, and federal corruption suddenly went quiet on those issues. Her fire against the establishment dimmed. No more sharp tweets aimed at the FBI. No more cryptic posts about leaked receipts. No more late-night rants about powerful billionaires trying to pull the strings. Instead, what emerged was a much softer version of Candace, one who redirected her focus entirely on Erika Kirk. This new phase came in the form of what many are now calling her praise tour. Every post, Every public statement seemed less about exposing wrongdoing and more about glorifying Erika's strength, her faith, and her composure in the face of unimaginable loss. Candace described Erika's speech at the memorial as one of the most consequential in American history, calling her an embodiment of Christian forgiveness. She painted a picture of herself attending Mass, taking her children to see a faith-based film, and then being moved by Erika's example as a living testament of God's love. For some, these words sounded beautiful. They showed a side of Candace that was tender, humble, and reverent, qualities that her critics often claim she lacks. But for many longtime observers, the timing was just too convenient. It felt less like genuine admiration and more like strategic positioning. After all, only days earlier, Erika reportedly made the decision to ban Candace from the memorial, frustrated with how Owens had made herself the loudest voice of Charlie's movement while failing to acknowledge his wife in her rants. To those skeptics, Candace's sudden praise was nothing more than damage control, an attempt to mend fences before she found herself barred from the funeral altogether. The shift was so sharp, so sudden, that fans couldn't help but raise their eyebrows. Where was the firebrand who claimed she had more receipts ready to unleash? Where was the defiance against billionaires and FBI agents she accused of lying? Where was the promise that she wouldn't rest until Charlie's killers and their enablers were fully exposed? None of that rhetoric has surfaced since the memorial. Instead, she seems determined to put Erika on a pedestal, retweeting and posting about her as the ultimate Christian role model. And that brings us to the million-dollar question. Will Erika actually accept this softer, rebranded Candace, or will she see straight through the sudden transformation? On the surface, Erika may smile for the cameras, graciously receiving Candace's compliments like the dignified woman she has shown herself to be. She might nod politely, thank her, and keep moving forward. But behind closed doors, the real dynamics may tell a different story. Erika has every reason to be cautious. She is grieving, navigating life without her husband, and at the same time, facing a media storm that refuses to let the tragedy rest. The last thing she likely wants is another circus, especially one stirred up by someone else's need for attention. Many fans believe Erika won't easily forget how Candace centered herself in the chaos, demanding revenge while barely mentioning Charlie's widow. Even when heartbreaking images surfaced of Erika holding a rosary, leaning on her faith to get through her pain, Candace was silent. That absence spoke volumes to some. To then pivot and crown Erika as the shining example of Christian forgiveness seems, to critics, almost performative. It feels like a narrative switch made to protect Candace's access, her reputation, and her standing with Charlie supporters. Still, it's also possible that Erika could choose grace. After all, her speech at the memorial was filled with forgiveness, even toward those who brought her pain. If she truly believes in that principle, she may decide to extend the same mercy to Candace, choosing not to hold grudges, at least publicly. But forgiveness does not always equal reconciliation. Even if Erika forgives her, that doesn't necessarily mean Candace will be welcomed back into her inner circle. The door may stay shut quietly, even as the public sees smiles and handshakes. One thing is certain. This feud has entered unpredictable territory. What began as a heated crusade for justice has morphed into a delicate balancing act between public praise and private tension. The sudden calm from Candace doesn't erase the weeks of fiery claims she made, nor does it convince everyone that her change of tone is authentic. Instead, it leaves people wondering what her true motives are and whether her silence on the investigation is temporary or permanent. If history is any guide, the fireworks aren't over. Candace Owens is not known for staying quiet for long, and her personality has never been one of subtle restraint. Sooner or later, she may very well pick another fight, whether with billionaires, the FBI, or even Erika herself. And when that happens, the drama surrounding Charlie Kirk's legacy will likely explode again, leaving fans and critics alike watching closely to see who stands where. For now, all anyone can do is wait. Will Candace's pivot to admiration and praise secure her a place back in Erika's good graces? Or will it backfire, cementing her reputation as someone who shifts narratives for personal gain? Either way, the story is far from finished. In fact, this may only be the calm before the next storm.